believe it or not, I've had mnemonic images fail from time to time. And it's just a reality of using memory techniques to learn that they're not a magic bullet. They do work incredibly well, but when things go wrong, some of the common advice that you'll hear is, well, you need to make your associations more vivid, make them bizarre, exaggerate them, add emotion. And yes, that's useful advice, especially when you're getting started with memory techniques. But vividness by itself is not what makes a mnemonic association reliable. In fact, when your mnemonics fail, making them even crazier can sometimes mean that you're trying to solve the wrong problem. And there are a number of things that I usually check first, and we're going to talk about them today. The memory palace itself, the association, the timing of your recall, and how that you review. And I'm going to show you one of my own recent issues involving a rather strange word from the world of legal terminology, usufruct. Now, I was memorizing the word, and for usufruct, I used a US flag and John Frusciante from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I don't have him here today as a guest, so we'll use Cheshire Cat, because the Frusciante and Cheshire, they kind of sound alike, assuming I'm actually pronouncing Frusciante's name properly. I'm not sure that I got it right, but you don't have to get it right. You just need to have the images as close as possible phonetically. And so it looked very promising for usufruct, John Frusciante with the US flag, and he was there in the memory palace. But when I got to the word, I pronounced it just fine, because the US flag got that use, and then Frusciante, got me to this fruct sound. And then I just thought, well, where's the meaning of this word? Now, it wasn't that the image was vague or unfamiliar in terms of the associations. It seemed like it was going to work when I laid it out in the memory palace, but I still wound up having to go back and repair it. But here's the thing that's really going to help you in your practice when this happens to you. Sometimes the question isn't, how do I make this association more vivid? It was fine. The question in this case is, what part of the entire mnemonic strategy did I miss or leave underdeveloped? So this is part of the questions I want you to start asking when you have associations that don't give you the target information back. Now, the first thing I suggest you do is not blame the mnemonics, but inspect the retrieval structure, the memory palace, and ask yourself, can I travel through this memory palace without hesitation? Are the locations unquestionably in order? Do I immediately know what comes before and after the location that I'm using? Because even an excellent association can become very difficult to retrieve if the structure that's containing it is shaky. And memory palaces aren't about mental scenery. They're a retrieval structure, and their use is to be clean and clear for recall rehearsal. So if that journey is uncertain, adding more explosions, strange animals, celebrities, or exaggerated actions may not solve anything. You might just be winding up decorating a weak retrieval path that needs fixing. So if this is useful for you, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And if you're new here, get subscribed, because we focus on making sure that you can remember what it is that you need in your life as a student, or whatever it is that you want to complete to raise all ships in this world so people are top performers and they get what they want out of life. Now, the second problem that people have is that they sometimes treat visual aspects of mnemonics as the complete method, but it's not. And so I don't really see images in my mind. I can sometimes a little bit, but the reality is it's a very weak thing for me. So I developed something called KAVE COGS, which stands for kinesthetic, auditory, visual, emotional, conceptual, olfactory, gustatory, and spatial. And you don't need every mnemonic that you create to have all 8 of these associations. That's not the point. Although often, if you make a mistake, you want to ask, well, what could I add, right? So the point is that when an association isn't working, you have this systematic structure that lets you inspect what's going on there. So can I hear something? Is anything moving? Can I feel something physically? Or can I make it more conceptual so that it makes more sense to me? And can I get things to interact more, right? So this is something that's really important. If you're entirely relying on things that you can see, well, Mnemonics can look really spectacular in your imagination and still be surprisingly thin and utterly fail. So don't worry about, like, oh, I'm super visual or anything like that. You can still wind up saying, what on earth was this mnemonic association supposed to mean? So this is the difference between an image that's memorable and an image that actually functions as a retrieval cue. So if you want a little bit more help with this and you're watching this because you're trying to use memory techniques for real study, well, it's almost back to school time, and I've made a free private lesson that takes all of this one step further called From Page to Palace. I'm going to show you the exact actual process I use to take dense material and extract it in a very streamlined way so that I just simply don't make mistakes. And I got A+ recently because I follow this model. And it is such a good feeling when you see your grades, but in my case, I gave oral presentations. I knew I was getting the A+ right away just by the way that the people were watching me give the presentation. So you can watch this lesson free using the link below. And it's really, really important because also we're coming up to the back to school live boot camp. So if you want to be notified, that's a great way to get notified. If you're already a subscriber on my list, then you'll get notification, but don't miss this training because I think you'll find the 5-step process very, very useful. And it even includes something that I've started using more and more that I think you'll find very interesting how that it works from the world of memory techniques. Okay, so usufruct. Well, this is, a great word. I won't bore you with what it means and all that sort of stuff. But what ultimately was missing from my association with the US flag and John Frusciante was that I had all this familiar imagery. I knew the sounds, but I had stopped there and it just wasn't as complete as possible. And so it wasn't about making it crazier. It was like, where's the meaning? So I added more physical interaction. And I asked more about like what's happening spatially. Could I change it where exactly it is in the memory palace? And I made the action connect a little bit stronger with the location. Now, often people ask me, like, how do I connect memory palace imagery with the actual memory palace location? And I normally don't do that. I just want to go really, really fast. And that usually works for me. But sometimes what helps is to actually have John Frusciante with his flag actually bang the flag into the wall, right? And so now that adds sound, and it actually helped me memorize the concept or the definition of this strange word, right? The movement and the way the space was arranged, much, much easier to recall it after that. Now, it's not about force, but it's just, okay, this didn't work, go back and make the additional features do the work that didn't happen the first time around. This is troubleshooting, followed by repair. Then I go and I test it again, and sometimes, you just find, like I found, it wasn't the associations that was the problem at all, it was the additional elaborative encoding. And the other thing is that you've got to make sure that you test your retrieval soon enough, because good encoding doesn't mean that you create the mnemonic once and then you disappear for a long period of time and expect permanent recall. This, Sherlock Holmes, I must go to my mind palace to find this. No, you need to test what you memorized through retrieval. If you let too much time pass, the relationship between the encoding and the testing, it can weaken. And you just don't need to have that happen if you are just on the ball. So when something is not working, not only just ask all these other questions that we've talked about, but just say, did I leave too much time? And often that's the real problem. Delayed retrieval leads people to endlessly rebuild their original associations, and then they're solving for the wrong problem yet again. So my troubleshooting in order, when a mnemonic doesn't work the way that I want, is basically like this. Nothing is everything the same every single time. But I will ask, is that journey that I'm using properly automatic? Is there something with the way I'm traveling this that needs to be fixed? So make sure that you know where you're supposed to go next. Because if you're spending time going, oh, where did I go next? That's messing with your retrieval practice in the first place, and it's something that can cause the decay. Then ask, does the association actually lead you to the sound and the meaning? It has to give you the target information, right? And it's okay if it doesn't. You just got to fix it. And one of the best ways to fix it is that the association needs to not rely just on one dimension. It can't just be about visuals. Add the sound, add the movement, add conceptual meaning, emotions, stronger spatial interaction. Then make sure that you're attempting your retrieval soon enough. If you're leaving lots of time, well then, it's just going to end up decaying in most cases. Not always. And that's where the problem, right? Is that sometimes we get away with it and then it's tempting to, I'll definitely remember this because the image was strong enough. It's okay. We can forgive ourselves. But never decide whether a mnemonic is going to work or not while you're creating it. There's a guy I read years ago, Gary Halbert. He has a line I never forgot. Different context, but still useful here. Don't be too sure. Don't be too sure. Don't be too sure. So try to retrieve from your associations as quickly as possible. It's not that the mnemonic isn't successful because it felt memorable when you made it. It's not successful often because you just didn't test it. Now, here's a thing that I think is really important. I've talked about KAVE COGS, and I want to be clear. You don't have to use my particular model. You can make your own, or you can use my framework, but change the order. I use KAVE COGS because it helped me remember the order. And the key really is just to be consistent. And when you can be consistent, you can stop relying on, I'm not creative and I'll try better next time. No, you just do what you do with the tools that you have at the time. And then you use the framework we talked about today to identify the problems, and you'll know where to look when you get better at making sure your memory palaces are clear and distinct journeys. And then you just continue practicing. And over time, this process is going to become faster. It's going to become more fulfilling. And yes, vividness is useful. I'm certainly not telling you to make your mnemonic images dull. It's just that vividness is not sufficient. And so make sure that you don't start saying, my memory is bad and I'm not creative or memory palaces don't work. It has nothing to do with any of that. This is like saying, the broom doesn't work because I haven't done push-ups for 3 weeks. Chances are you could probably push a broom around and get decent results. And then you could get better at pushing the broom around as long as you show up and practice the practice of using brooms, right? I know that's a bit of a weird analogy, but the reason why I think about it is because I used to sweep my memory palaces with brooms in order to clear them out. That's a topic for a different day, but at the end of the day, it is so important that you have a way of getting yourself to not get frustrated, and anything that goes wrong, you treat it as feedback, as a gift to help you get stronger in your skills with memory techniques. So if you want to see how I apply this to actual studying rather than, just going on your own and getting more details, make sure to grab from the Page to the Palace, an exclusive lesson. I'm going to show you how to take dense material, move through the whole process, extracting it, placing it, associating it, retrieving it, checking it, and a couple of additional tips that were really, really helpful in the recent A+ that I earned. Link is below the video. And if you're serious about using memory techniques for studying, not only is that the lesson that I'd watch next, but be prepared to come join me for the back to school boot camp. And the thing that I would also suggest, since we're here talking about vividness and associations, is get involved and interested in mental imagery at large and visualization at large, and watch my video about Nikola Tesla and visualization next. You might not agree with what I have to say, but I think if you consider it, you'll find that you're probably more imaginative than you ever thought. So thanks as ever for joining me, and until we have a chance to speak again, keep yourself magnetic.